Welcome to podcast number 224. Is your project in trouble? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. I hope you're doing well. I'm in a hotel here in Baltimore. I have a different kind of an echo. It's almost like an empty, eerie kind of an echo behind me. Anyway, having a great time, heading out to a project tomorrow to really dive into some scheduling. Super excited about that. It's a little bit late, but I spent some time on the plane making sure that this podcast was put together, and now I'm recording it now that I'm back at the hotel. So we are going to talk I am going to talk today about recovering a project. So this is kind of a near and dear thing to my heart, but also like one of my least favorite things to do, because I really want everyone in construction to be able to prevent crash landings, projects going badly. I personally, like I said, by sheer luck, have never been on a project that went badly. I've always been on projects where they did pre-construction, where they were run well. I was taught that way, so I just got used to things like that. And I know there are so many in this industry that are put into horrible situations where there's not enough time, or there's multiple trade partners going into default, or just, really difficult circumstances, right? So I feel for people. I've been asked so many times over the years to recover projects in trouble and to go kind of save the day. That's, I think, senior general superintendents, field directors get asked to do that too much. I don't think that's the exact way to do it, but when it needs to happen, it needs to happen. So that's what the podcast is about tonight, and what we're going to talk about. So going through a couple of scaffolding type items first before we get into the meat of the podcast. Number one, I want to talk to you about what was going to be Principle 11 in Elevating Construction Superintendents, and read this little section for you. I think we only have 2 or 3 more of these before I'm done. Also, I just got the final manuscript after any of the edits for the KDP website. If I'm up enough the rest of the night, I'll finish the submission tonight. If not, it'll be in the morning. But Elevating Construction Takt Planning is on its way. Okay, so this is going to be principle number 15, titled Outpace Entropy. Superintendents do not have to fully implement the systems encouraged in this book, but they must have the systems in place that will correct problems in a manner fast enough to outpace the natural chaos of the project, as well as the natural chaos of the bad behaviors on site. There are systems of construction that could be implemented that will help us discourage the natural entropy of the project. Communication systems with our GC carpenters will help us go fast. Zero tolerance for safety issues will help us to go fast. Morning huddles with the workers to remind people of common expectations will help us to go fast. Foreman huddles to plan every day's work will help us to go fast. We cannot have a complacent project team or a project management team that will allow the chaos of the project to go faster than they can correct problems on site as a team. So really appreciate that. Entropy, the definition of entropy is the natural state of disorder or chaos, or the tendency towards chaos or disorder in the universe. And organizing that, being creators, being people that can control our projects, this is something that I'm very much interested in and believe that we can do. And so we have to outpace that natural chaos with the improvements and the stability that we have on site. So another little bit before we get started on our podcast, what am I excited about in life? Consulting. The opportunity to ensure that teams and operations are never in a position where they do not have the resources and the training, the tools and equipment that they need to be successful. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I get to do the next 3 days. So I'm stoked about that. I just love being able to see the light bulb go on for good people, where we're able to take the lessons learned of the past and merge them with the lean practices of today and give people solutions that they've been looking for a long time, that allow them to immediately implement and win. That's one of the things I'm really passionate about. So here's some feedback from one of our listeners. Hey, thanks again for asking me to go through the personal organization training and mentoring me through the podcast. The last couple of months have been pretty interesting, to say the least. My apologies that it's taken me 2 months to go through all of your content. I also realized that there were more assessments that I was able to do, and have taken some time to go ahead and purchase those assessments and complete those as well. I'm working my way through your podcast and learning an incredible amount. I've recently gotten an Audible account and have been making intentional investments in myself. I'm reading and listening to books like never before, and it's changing my life. I also went out to half price books and recently got the Field Engineering Methods Manual to start studying. So I really love this, and I love to hear. Oh, wait, there was a phrase in here that I really liked. Intentionally investing in myself. I love that. I love to see when people get to the point where they're going to invest in themselves. So really appreciate that feedback. Let's get into the podcast. You are not getting help when you need it. So let me tell you 3 little examples of different projects. There was one project where when I walked, you can just kind of tell that there's something wrong. There's something amiss, and that they're not going to finish on time. And the early indicators are pretty clear. And I was walking this project, big, high profile, $100 million project, and going through it. And I walked out there and there was chaos. There wasn't any clear delineation of tasks, who was over certain geographical areas. Could see that there wasn't any flow on the project site, and I was offering some advice and some help, and the team was too arrogant to see that they had a problem, and the senior superintendent on the project was, and I'm not saying this happens with all supers, but the senior superintendent wasn't open to hearing about it, was very stubborn, felt like he knew what was best. That project ended up finishing. It wasn't even a crash landing where we burned people out. It was a crash landing where the company, not me, I wasn't on the project, but they ignored my advice to their detriment. They crash landed and then finished 3.5 months behind schedule, behind substantial completion, and it was an absolute disaster. When you go there, after the fact, you can see there's improper transitions with the expansion joint covers, with door frames on the exterior with the exterior cladding. They don't line up. There's problems with the finish on the concrete. There's problems with the exterior doors. I mean, there's just a number of quality problems because they were in a crash landing and they finished late and they were in a hurry and they ran out of money. So when I talk about projects finishing behind or having a net fee loss or just having a really bad experience, I have observed these. And these are projects where I haven't specifically been given the authority. You need a teaspoon of authority, a gallon of influence, right, to fix a project. But where I've observed and learned from the industry, I've never been in one myself because I've never allowed it to happen because I've been taught so many great things by great people. But in this particular project, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it was an absolute disaster. And I was just thinking the hubris, I don't know how to say that, the arrogance, the lack of productive paranoia amongst the team had them to where they lost $2.5 million of what was going to be a large portion of their fee. And their reputation was lost, 3.5 months behind, and the project team, actually half of them, close to, at least a third of them left. And then let me tell you another example. It had a different ending. I watched one time where there was a project where a field director was dispatched to recover a project, and the field director was charged to go take over for the project, and he directed traffic and finished and got them to finish on time, and they were able to salvage their fee position. But I thought to myself, how destructive is that to the field director and to the project team when he has to go do that and when the team feels like somebody comes in and plays savior? Then there's a third model. Again, I'm not going to tell you what the project is, but the red flags on this project went up quickly enough Well, actually, it was kind of late, but they went out quickly enough to where we swarmed together and started to coach the on-site project executives, the project director, and with the existing project team, without switching anybody out, coaching them and stabilizing the project through that team. And they ended up mapping out a plan up until the finish. They ended up finishing on time to the delight of the customer. In fact, in order to finish, we ended up having to remove one non-performing player instead of adding more manpower, or let's not call it manpower, more staff to the project, which can increase the number of communication channels that you have and the complexity of the project and hurt it from actually finishing. And so I've left quite a few observations in the industry, thinking to myself that the right way to do a project recovery is to work through the team that is there, to have them know and feel like they actually did the work, did the doing. They prevented the crash landing. They did a controlled landing. They learned, they implemented, they got the credit, they saved face, they have that self-esteem, and they also had the prevention of the working 7 days a week and hurting their families. And so I don't believe in teams ignoring help. I don't believe in playing savior with teams. I believe that there's a way to get outside perspectives with some productive paranoia and some outside help, some facilitation to really prevent problems. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day where that hubris, that pride, that arrogance, that lack of productive paranoia caused one project to lose $2.5 million. And then another project where the team was productively paranoid, asked for help, asked for insight. We were able to, 6 months out, stabilize that. They were able to get 0.90, 90% of their original fee target and finish on time when they otherwise would have been in a horrible situation. So finding these situations early enough and responding in the right way that supports and enables the team is absolutely crucial. Excuse me. And so the principle is, it's really hard sometimes to see if a project is not going well, especially if you're using CPM and it's hidden, and especially if within the CPM network, the precedence diagram, the schedulers or the superintendent are dissolving logic and stacking activities unbeknownst to the team or the project manager, and where people don't know that they have a clear path to finish. And so what we need to be doing is looking for the signs of a project in trouble. I've done a previous podcast about this, but tonight's podcast is really about the need for getting help, not about the details on how to recover a project. If you want to do that, go back to that previous podcast called Stabilizing and Recovering a Project, I think is what the title is. I can get the number in the show notes if you need me, but we need to start to see problems. If you see a project where people are out of roles, where the project is unclean, where there's a lack of organization, where we are starting to see small amounts, even if they're small amounts of fee loss or financial loss, where there's increased manpower to keep schedule, increased inventory, unreconciled changes or losses in contingency, an unclear path to finish, or people rushing and the capacity of the team not being what it needs to be in control. Excuse me, sorry, my allergies are giving me a hard time. Then we know that we have a problem. And so we immediately need to set about doing something. And when I go to help projects, these are just some of the techniques. I bring in a lot of different techniques to help when this happens, but when the need happens. And I always want companies to do the right training and set up the right systems, the right scheduling systems ahead of time so it never gets to this point, meaning, implement takt, last planner, and scrum, use the integrated control system, make sure that all of the field positions are trained. I really like when companies ask me for help to prevent those things instead of waiting for this moment when this happens. But when it happens, step one is almost always, well, no, it's not almost, every time, stabilizing the site for cleanliness, organization, and safety. Immediately, there has to be a purging of the site, an organizing of all materials, and a reset on safety. Number two, organizing all functional roles on the project team by area, not by scope, not by a trade partner, but by functional area. So that there's geographical control. That's what's needed to finish. Number 3, focus the team on contract work and not change order work. Now, we want to get the change order work taken care of, but we have to get that team focused on what we've already been paid to do. Number 4, map out a plan to finish that has a flow. And I would always recommend doing this with takt planning. If I go in and do a takt plan, we've got 4 months left, and I'm like, well, it's going to take 4 months and 2 weeks. Let's have a talk with the owner on what dials we need to turn to either bring it in or deal with that. And somebody's like, no, let's just go create a sequence that shows us finishing. I'm like, well, you can finish in 4 weeks and 4 months and 2 weeks, or you can finish in 5 weeks or 5 months and 3 weeks, doing it your way, needlessly pushing and throwing money out the window. Like we absolutely on every project, every recovery, we need a plan that will stabilize to the finish in a flow. Number 5, standardizing the meeting systems so that we get that flywheel of consistency going on the project. Meaning the weekly work planning meeting, or what I call the trade partner weekly tactical, the afternoon foreman huddles, the morning worker huddles, crew preparation huddles, and then in a controlled landing, the project management team has to huddle every single day for at least 30 minutes. It works when we do it right and set it up right. It works every time. So implementing a standard meeting system. Number 6, having discipline, and I'm mentioning this again in addition to item number 1. Having discipline around cleanliness and safety. If people start to get in a rush and we abandon the cleanliness and safety as we go through this process, they will fail. We have to go clean and steady all the way to the end and resist the temptation to go fast, to be unsafe, to be unclean, and to just throw additional manpower on it when what we need is flow, coordination, and planning. We don't need to throw more and more things at the wall to see if they stick. We need to plan better and stabilize. And we do that with takt systems, sometimes with last planner when we're at the end, and sometimes with scrum. Like with the things that I would want to do with scrum at the end are elevator testing, life safety inspections, stairwell pressurization, commissioning, things like that. We need to scrum those to get twice as much work done in half the time. Number 7, focus the team on fanatical roadblock removal and pull in the project executive or project director and the general superintendent to work on that daily to enable the team's success. Number 8, and I duplicated this, start a team huddle that scrums them to the finish for any non-timelined work. And number 9, well, actually, I put this as number 9, but this really starts at number 1, is get some help. You usually can't see these things or start these things unless you get some experienced help, some facilitation, some consulting from me, an experienced general superintendent within your organization, whomever it is. And the reason this is important, the reason I mention this is because it's needless for people to silently suffer and to not get the help that they need. The current condition is people let projects begin to crash land. Then manpower and materials increase. Then money flies out the window. Quality's lost. Relationships are lost. And we end up hurting individuals and families. And it's just not the way. So my challenge to anybody listening to this podcast, I did this to help tonight. And to sell services, right? If you need help, give me a call. I'm going to fly out to your project. I'm going to help you to see what the reality is, to map out the projections of where you're headed, and then help you form a plan to where that project doesn't lose the money and hurt the people that it's going to hurt. Sometimes it really freaks me out that somebody wouldn't hire a consultant or some facilitation for whatever it costs. Like, I'm just going to throw something out there. What if it cost $6,000? What if it was 12? What if it was 24? What if it was even $50,000 to get some consulting or some facilitation? I'm not even saying it costs that much. But what is that in comparison to the possibility of losing $500,000, $1.2 million, $2.5 million in net fee loss because it's not headed in the right direction? What are the consequences there? So get some help, get some facilitation. If you do not know the project is on track in an easy way, meaning see it easily, and if you do not know 100% that you have control, then you don't have control. Then you are in trouble. meaning that if you don't know for a fact that things are going well, then they're probably not, and you need to take a look at it. We need to go smooth to go fast. You have to hold the line in a steady, controlled manner, and you need to decide between finishing late or finishing as early as you possibly can with flow and with some facilitation. My desire is that everybody would get what they need and not have to suffer through a bad project just because of pride. Let's take care of our families. Let's respect people. Let's get the help we need. Let's reach out for help. Recovering a project always comes down to being productively paranoid, creating stability, respecting people, and making sure that we have a good plan that is held with the team in a disciplined manner so that we are able to also control the job, but also make sure that we're not needlessly throwing away our money and the trade partners' money. Get some help. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your